So welcome back to Time for a DMC. I'm Jono Godley, and today we're focusing on the power of music. And they say music is what feelings sound like. And if a DMC is a deep, meaningful conversation with another person, then a great album is a DMC with yourself. Think about that feeling when the lights go down at a gig. It's that split second of silence before the first note hits. And for a neurodivergent brain, it's one of the few places where the noise outside finally matches the volume inside. It's kind of like a pure, unfiltered dopamine hit, and really a collective experience that somehow feels deeply personal. So, with that said, today we're stepping out of the car and into the crowd, and we're going to be diving into the power of the playlist, the gig afterglow, and the tracks that act as our emotional North Star. And we're exploring why music isn't just background noise, but is the heartbeat of how we connect. And as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime,
Joe Hackman. Hello, Jono. Here we
Hi.
are again. Music. This is something that means a lot to us, and something that we definitely share a lot of our core musical interests. We're both big fans of like Beatles, Arctic Monkeys. We were talking earlier about Wolf Alice, and there's just so much that comes with when you share musical interest with someone. There is something about that that's very profound, and it's almost you get to know a lot about a person by their music interest, I find.
I completely agree. So, with that said, let's dive into this week's DMC. So, music, I mean, it's something that has obviously been with me for years. Live music, but also just being able to sit down and listen to an album from start to finish. I'll be honest, it's something that I'm not really doing enough of these days. But I really just because I love, especially vinyl records, what I love about them specifically is the way you can sit down with a group of friends, could be just 3 or 4 of you, have a beer or whatever your preferred beverage is, and just listen to an album from start to finish. I feel like that's what albums were made for, story. And if you just kind of dip into the occasional track here and there, we all do it, sure, but you're not getting the full picture by doing that, which is why I love records, because it almost forces you into listening from track 1 to track 15.
Yeah. And I find it's definitely a very rare experience for people to just listen to an album from start to finish. And it's also I quite enjoy it because it's like the artists will have curated it for that specific reason, whatever it may be, if it's the story of it, if there's a particular mood that they want to take you on. And a friend of mine, he started this thing. It was really inspiring, actually. He started this thing where every day for a year he would listen to like one album a day. He would listen from start to finish, and he had like this notes page on his phone, and he was just taking inspiration from people who were taking suggestions here and there. And that inspired me to do the similar thing. I've not been able to do an album a day because that is a hell of a lot of commitment.
It is.
If I'm lucky enough to find an album that I'm kind of interested in, I'll often just listen to it in the car on the way to work or something, because that's about an hour's commute. And I find it quite difficult because I'll like a song and then I'll be like, oh, I've lost it because I want to add it to my playlists, but then I can't because I'm driving, and that's very dangerous. Yeah, so one thing I did a while back would be, if there's an artist or that I have a couple of their songs circulating on my playlists, I would go to their entire discography and listen to every one of their albums in order to try and get a feel for their progression, get a feel for how they've changed over the years, how they've found their voices and their style, which I would recommend to anyone listening as well. Some artists, obviously, if they're like quite established and long running, then it's a bit more of a marathon. Take it when you can. But I would love that when I would be on the bus back in 2020. I'd be on the way to work. Unfortunately, I had to still go to work during 2020. I wasn't lucky enough to be furloughed, but I would love those mornings where I'd be like, I'd listen to an album and I get through an artist in about a week. And it was, that you find a lot more things. You find a lot more to add to your playlists and your overall, I won't say repertoire, because that's not the right word there, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. Your music library. Yeah.
yeah, library, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you. And there's something really special about that feeling you get when you stumble across, completely inadvertently, a track that resonates with you straight away.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
on a really deep level. And often they come to you. You don't go to them.
Mm.
They present themselves when you're least expecting it. And that's happened to me so many times over the years. I used to work at a surgery in St Albans, and I was doing a really mundane task. And I got through my shifts by literally just whacking Spotify on. Probably looked really antisocial. And just allowing Spotify radio to recommend new stuff to me.
Yeah.
And that's how I found out about so much new music and so many great bands and artists, just because of that feature. So
I'd put on Smart Shuffle. That would be one that I'd always put on, and that would bring up a few things. I've discovered a lot of bands from just by doing that. I've like, oh wow, this track I really like, and then as you do, you investigate the artist a bit more. What's one track that you can cite that's gotten you into an artist or something that you like? Wow, what's like the first one that comes to mind that you're just like, wow, that was a good one? Because I've got one. What do you have?
it's so hard to pick just one, but I'm going to go with the artist that I'm really into at the moment, which is Sigrid, only because I saw her live.
Oh, love Sigrid, yeah.
She's great, isn't she? I saw her live at Camden Roundhouse 2 weeks ago. It was her only London date, completely sold out. And I don't know, I just think she's one of the artists that I've really been vibing with recently. I think the first track I heard from her was probably either Sucker Punch or Dynamite. I think it might have been Dynamite, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that one might be one of her most well-known tracks.
Yeah, no, I love Dynamite. It's a very nice ballad. For me, it was Strangers. I really like Strangers.
I think that actually might have been her first big release. That's kind of what propelled her into the field of stardom.
I've not listened to her new album yet, because from what I've heard, it's a bit more, how would one describe it? I mean, a bit more edgy, I suppose, a bit more raw, a bit more loud.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Sigrid's previous albums, they're all great, but they've been more poppy. They've got a more poppy sound to them. And this album, there's always more that I could say. I think it's you're right. It's more raw. Some of the tracks have got a little bit more grit, but there's also tracks that are very stripped back and genuine. So perfect balance, really, of high energy tracks and then more low key emotive ones, which is why I'm such a big fan of it. So if you've not listened to it yet yourself, Joe, but also you listening or watching, that would be my main recommendation right now.
You know, I'll have to cue that up on my next car ride. One for me, one that's a song that, I mean, just the first one that came to mind. I remember me and my sister were on a road trip, and we were taking it turns to queue up songs. We were like, "What, you play song, I play song," and she put up one that she was like, "Okay, I think you'll like this one," and it was Killa, spelt Kila, by the Cat Empire. And as soon as it started, I was like, okay, all right, here we go. You know, she knows me so well. She knows, because I like very big ambient songs. A lot of songs that could be used in a movie, really. Anything that invokes this big emotion, big sound. One track I love to think about in a movie is like, because I think we all do that from time to time. We'll have a song and we'll like imagine a movie scene or something that it would go with in our heads. One for me is Common People by Pulp.
Oh yeah,
that's a great one. I don't know why, but it invokes this image from this film that I've just made up of like a man is about to, his wife is giving birth. This is such a specific thing, but I don't know why. I just had this very clear image when the chorus comes in. But he's like, it's this slow motion chaos of him running through this hospital corridor as like the ba 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 ba. Like, sing along with the common people. Like when it gets right in the end of the chorus. And I don't know why. I just thought that's a very uplifting, very good vibey song. Would also recommend that to anyone who hasn't heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, where the hell have you been? That's like one of their biggest songs. And I watched a live recording of them at Reading Festival doing that song. And Jarvis Cocker, it's so funny. If you watch any of their stuff now, because they just released a new album, actually. And my dad was watching them on Jules Holland or live sessions on BBC or something. And it's as if you're just watching all of your secondary school teachers playing in a band. That's their kind of look. Like Jarvis Cocker is the coolest nerd you've ever seen. He wears these tweed blazers. He's got this big ratty hair and these big glasses. And he's very like, yeah, oh. So this live recording of them in Reading, and he's like, if Pulp are only known for this one song, I don't care. Black Lace are only known for Agadoo, so it could be a lot worse.
Love that. Love that.
It's so, yeah, I love those kind of things. Like he's the coolest guy.
Yeah, I kind of picked up on that because I'll be honest, I didn't see. I watched a bit of their set at Glastonbury as I was walking past because they're last year.
Oh yeah, because they were at Glastonbury last year, weren't they?
They were at Glastonbury last year, but there was a lot of anticipation because I think they might have been billed as one of the surprise acts.
They were the surprise act, yeah.
Yeah, so no one knew. And I was walking past the pyramid stage as everyone was gathering there for this surprise act.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just remember on stage, they had about 20 people all wearing ponchos in a line. And it was a very odd experience because no one really knew. And then it, was revealed to be Pulp. And there you go, Jarvis Cocker walks on. And it was quite a euphoric experience because when they were playing Common People, the red arrows flew overhead, but no one knew that was going to happen. And I heard them and I was like, is that the red arrows?
Yeah, I was about to say, I was watching it on telly and they do Common People. Up comes the last chorus. It's the most incredible 5 seconds of TV.
I know.
You've got Common People playing, the red arrows fly over, and then Florence Pugh is sat on someone's shoulders, like jamming out to it. I was like, this is wild. This is the coolest thing ever.
That was peak Glastonbury.
I had such like FOMO with that. I was like, oh, I just wish I could have been there.
Honestly, it just caught everyone by surprise, really. And I heard the noise of the planes coming overhead, but no one knew that it was going to happen, but the timing was perfect. Like there was just this strategic precision. They'd obviously planned it somehow. I don't even know if Pulp knew about it, but it was just an insane moment.
They're good at precision, aren't they, the Red Arrows?
Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever seen them in real life?
Yeah. Where I used to live, we used to be directly under their flight path when they go to Silverstone.
Nice.
So every now and then you just hear like, and you'd be like, whoa, and you like run out into the garden really quick.
Yeah.
And I remember I've got this photo of my dad with his camera on the tripod trying to catch them when they fly over.
Honestly, there's nothing more incredible than seeing the red arrows because I'd always wanted to see them, and I went to over in Duxford up in Cambridgeshire. They do every year they have a flying season.
Yeah. Big flight show kind of thing.
Yeah, so they put on a lot of flight shows, and their final one takes place in October of every year, and the red arrows are always there. And I was like, I'm definitely going. And I was excited just for the whole thing, but I knew the red arrows would be the highlight. Yeah. And it was just a half an hour, 40-minute maybe performance of them doing all these incredible maneuvers in the sky. And the amount of precision is just mind-blowing. You can watch so many videos of the red arrows doing their thing, but until you actually see one of their displays in person, it's just mad. We've gone off on a bit of a tangent here.
We have, haven't we? Right, so back to music. So one question I put to you, Jono, is what is your first gig? What was our first gigs that we ever went to?
So to my memory, I think it was Bastille at the Shepherd's Bush Empire in London. I want to say it was 2013. It was just before they really hit the big time. One of their last gigs before they became super famous. And I think the reason for it really standing out for me was because I was waiting for them to, I think I arrived at the venue quite early, and I remember seeing Dan Smith, the lead singer, just jumping over the chairs in the auditorium right next to me. And then the bassist was just casually walking past, and I was like, oh, that's the bassist from Bastille. And then I was like, I'll go and say hi, and got a photo and all that. So
that's awesome.
It was cool. But I think the reason for it really standing out was because they were on like the precipice of fame at that point in time.
Yeah.
It was probably not long after they released Flaws, which was the single that really changed it all for them. But they had some support acts who weren't really all that well known. Ella Eyre was one of them because they collaborated. There was a track called No Angels, which was a mashup of TLC, No Scrubs, and Angels by the XX. And they performed that live with Ella Eyre. And I think that was just one of those almost core memories for me that was formed during that gig. And then ever since, they've just went up. And I remember something really funny. I don't know if I should be admitting this, but the drummer for Bastille, Chris Wood, before he joined the band, he was a drum teacher. And I think it was Dan Smith. He was just talking about how he was looking for a drummer for the band and put a flyer through Chris Wood's door his letterbox, and that's basically what resulted in Chris joining Bastille. But at the time, I found Chris's website online, which had his phone number on it. So I've saved his phone number to my phone. I think I actually still have it now. And then a few weeks after, he deleted the website. So I was like, damn, I've acted right in time for that.
God, would you ever use it?
No. I've been tempted.
I mean, he must have changed it by now.
I guess I'll never know. But I was tempted to drop him a WhatsApp because, you know, when you go onto WhatsApp, and if you've got someone's number saved, you can actually see their profile photo on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It was very clearly his profile photo. So who knows? It could still be the same now. So that was my first experience, the first gig that really comes to mind. But what about yourself, Joe?
I remember my first concert very well. It was Crowded House. Yeah. It was my dad. That was my dad's influence. I mean, like a lot of people, I think my dad's influence has been huge in my music taste. He listens to more modern music than I do now because he listens to the radio a lot. So he knows all the modern music. He knows all the modern songs. He loves Harry Styles. I'm not much. I mean, I respect it. I respect Harry Styles. I used to absolutely hate him because of One Direction, but I think he's done some good stuff recently. I'm actually looking forward to listening to his new album. But no, Crowded House, it was great. That was a band that my dad loved. And I was, I believe, 11 years old, and we went to the O2. And I remember us getting dressed up and looking forward to it, and just this anticipation of, oh, what, we're going to a concert, a music concert, like what? But no, it was fantastic. And my dad, bless him, I remember there was a woman next to him that was trying to dance with him, and my mum was right there, and I was like pulling on him like, no, Dad, stop it, no, Mum's right there, and like trying to stop him from dancing with this drug lady. But no, it was very euphoric, a very good experience. I mean, Neil Finn, their lead singer, if everyone's unfamiliar, they're a band from New Zealand. Also check them out. They've done a lot of things that people would know, like Don't Dream It's Over, Fall at Your Feet, or Always Take the Weather With You. Just a few couple of things that people might have just heard and been like, oh, don't know where to place that. But Neil Finn gets out this camera that goes on the big screen, and he's filming the band from the stage's perspective. The drummer just like opens his mouth, and this very intimate shot of the inside of his mouth comes up. But yeah, my sister is in Australia at the moment, and she went to see them very recently. And like just out of nowhere, a friend from secondary school, because she went on her own, and she was telling me that a friend from secondary school, all of a sudden she heard her name, she turned around, and it's this friend from secondary school all the way in Australia. And turns out his girlfriend works for the festival she was at, or she was promotion for the festival. So she just luck we have it, she had VIP tickets to go and watch them, and she got very emotional because it's a very special band to us and our family. And she used to sing a lot of things. Oh, Distant Sun, that's another one. She used to sing Distant Sun with my dad, and my dad would play it, and that was a sweet thing. They actually did it on holiday together because we were sat in this restaurant. We were on holiday to America, and I think she's about, this was 2009, so she would have been 13 to 16. I off the top of my head can't figure that out. Terrible at maths. If anyone's shouting at the screen, like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, she was a teenager, and there's this busker playing the guitar in the restaurant balcony, and Dad goes up to them and it's like, do you know this song? And he says, yeah, he does. So then my sister is pressured to go up and sing it, which was a very sweet little moment that I remember.
Nice.
She got a nice little applause afterwards, and yeah, Crowded House is a very special kind of band for our family.
Love that. I've never seen them, but I did see, it was 2019 at Wembley Stadium. It was after Lindsey Buckingham had been fired from Fleetwood Mac. Neil Finn and I can't remember the name of the guitarist from Crowded House, but they basically were like the replacements for Lindsey, and they played Don't Dream It's Over with Stevie Nicks on vocals. And it was just a peak moment.
Oh, it's Tim Finn, the guitarist.
Tim Finn. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's Neil and Tim.
Yeah, and his son, Liam Finn, is also a member as well of recently, because I believe that they had a member that died. So Liam Finn stepped in.
I quite like it when bands do that. It's quite similar with what Genesis and also the Eagles did as well. Because with Genesis, obviously Phil Collins can't play the drums anymore because he's got so many health issues. So it was his son, the name escapes me. He stepped in to take over the drum duties. And I saw one of their last gigs at the O2 Arena a few years back. It had been postponed multiple times because of health issues within the band because of COVID and all sorts. So there was a huge amount of anticipation surrounding those gigs. Phil Collins literally had to be wheeled on because of his back issues.
What are his health issues at the moment? Like,
I think it's something to do with his spine.
yeah.
I can't remember the exact reason, but he's had falls and all sorts over
Oh.
a number of years. And he's got issues with his wrists as well, apparently, which is why he partially can't play the drums anymore. Partially can't play the drums. So yeah, it's sad, but it was also quite a poignant gig seeing him and his son there, keeping the Genesis name alive, if you like, but also it was quite a bittersweet performance. And the first time I'd ever seen them live, it was my dad who introduced me to them years ago. I don't know how familiar you are with Genesis, Joe, but there's an album called, it's the album that A Trick of the Tail, and there's a song on that one called, I think it's called Madman Moon, and it's one of those really quirky songs. Genesis songs are generally pretty quirky. It's a bit of a slow burner, but it's just a really beautiful song. So I'd highly recommend listening to it. The album's A Trick of a Tale, released in 1976. And it's one of those songs that whenever it comes on, I just can't skip it because of how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation. With it, so going back to the Crowded House gig, what was it about the gig that really resonated with you?
I think it was partly like hearing all of these songs that I'd heard so many times over in real life. And I was only 11 years old, so I had no idea about the history of the band or about who they were or even what they looked like. And it was just weird to see these guys. It was like my first encounter really with proper live music. And it was at the O2, so it was a massive crowd and like could barely see them. But it was all for my dad, really. It was like, that was his time. And no, it was just, as I say, it was just very special to hear these songs, because I mean, Dad would always play them in the car, and they were part of our lives. And yeah, it was just very special to hear live, really.
I love that, man. And I think that's really the power of music, because you can spend so long listening to the studio versions of tracks and the studio albums and all sorts, but when you hear tracks for the first time live, it's just more often than not a euphoric experience. I've had that multiple times. And for me, with gigs, that's something that I look for and I almost measure when it comes to seeing a band or an artist live.
Yeah, totally. How they do it. Like, the thing that gets my goat is when bands will play something different to how they do it on the studio album. And I know some people may disagree, but I think because often they'll record it and they're after a lot of vocal training and a lot of vocal warm-ups and everything, and it's hard to sing these very high ballads or these big numbers. But if they do that, if they do it the same as the studio album, or they can do it live instead of just in a different key, I'm always like, yeah, mad respect to you. You can actually sing that. You can do it 5 nights a week, you know.
Oh yeah, and it's super impressive. And when that happens, with me personally, my level of admiration for the band or the artist just shoots up. And what you were just saying then really reminded me of a Keane gig that I went to.
Yeah, you love Keane, don't you?
Oh yeah, I think they are my number one. And what's great about them is although their studio records are incredible, they sound even better live, specifically Tom Chaplin, the lead singer, because his voice has aged like a fine wine. Every time I've seen them live multiple times, but his vocals are always on point and sound exactly the same as they do on the studio records, if not better. And that's something that must be so difficult to do. So when I see an artist or a band with a singer that's able to do that night after night, it's just impressive.
They are a singer. They really are. And they
on
are
top of their game.
Musician.
Very much so. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I look for when I go to see someone live, but also a big part of it for me is the atmosphere and the crowd. So you've obviously got, for someone like Sigrid, she was very good at communicating with the crowd, and she was nurturing an atmosphere that was then
what was her kind of crowd work?
It was quite natural, really, because she's someone that's got quite an authentic, raw vibe that you just naturally pick up on anyway. So it wasn't so much about what she was doing. It was more just about the atmosphere that was in the room at the time. was
Mm.
completely packed in there. But it was almost like the energy that she was giving off from the stage was being soaked up by the crowd.
Mm.
And every attendee was passing that energy on to the person next to them.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked about energies and stuff like that during our debut episode, but for me, it was just so noticeable. I remember in front of us, we had two people, two women, and they were talking really loudly, you know,
Mm.
and it just was a bit like you're here to see an artist. You could talk at any other time. And some people actually tapped them on the shoulder and went, shh, to shut them up. And I was like, I admire that, because it's like you're here, you want to be in the moment, you're trying to enjoy the music. You can
Yeah.
talk any other point. And that just describes how respectful the vibe was in the room at the time. But that was because it was being created by Sigrid and being passed
Yeah.
to the audience. So that's one of the things that I really look for in a gig. Yes, the artist of the band has to be an artist or band that I like, but if the energy is good, it will leave me on a high for days. And her gig did just that. So
Yeah. What you say about people talking at gigs and people who just won't shut up. For me, it's tall people, because I'm a man of a smaller stature, shall we say. So I'm often, if I'm standing at a gig, it's often like the tallest person in the room is going to be right in front of me, typically. Remember, I went to Ed Sheeran concert. This was back in the days when I liked Ed Sheeran. I respect him. He holds a place in my heart, but I've got off him in the last few years. But I used to be like a really big Ed Sheeran fan. And I was, I think, maybe 16 at the time. And this bloody palm tree stands right in front of me. And I know they can't help it. Sorry to any tall listeners. But yeah, I know you guys can't help it. But yes, I was like, I can't see. Like, it's just what frustrating thing I always get in any sort of crowd. Always be like most of my other tiptoes.
I'm always very conscious of that being. I'm not super tall. I'm 6'1", but I'm tall enough to be a potential inconvenience for someone at a gig. And I'm always very aware of that. Generally, sometimes I try to position myself somewhere that won't affect the experience for someone else. It's harder for my dad, who's 6'6". I don't know how he does it, but I completely get it. If I was in your position and someone was just blocking my whole view of the stage, I wouldn't be very happy. Yeah.
It's all right. I'll find myself. I'll just try and kind of like squeeze myself in between, like just how get a view between someone's shoulders.
Yeah. Or just bring a little stool with you.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant. Carry around a box the whole time.
The guy with a stool. Or just get to the gig super early. And so you can go right to the front.
Yes. Yeah. One of the best gigs I've ever been to was Jungle. And that came about. It was so great. I was living in Vancouver at the time, and my friend, he messaged me. He was like, "What are you doing on Wednesday?" And I was like, "Oh, not much or anything." He's like, "Well, it turns out I was his third choice for this ticket, but it was because he was originally going to see it with his girlfriend. She couldn't come along, and then he asked another one of our friends, who's also a big fan of theirs. He couldn't make it, and then he asked me." I was like, absolutely no worries. I'd not seen much of their stuff before. I'd not heard much of their stuff before, other than their biggest track at the time, which was Busy Earning. And yeah, we went to see it at the P&E. I can't remember what that stands for, but it's like a venue in Vancouver. And it just was the vibe of that one. You talk about the energy of the crowd. It was such a mixed group of people and age ranges. And that's what I loved about them, because how do I describe them for people? How would you describe them for people who hadn't heard them? It's like kind of electro funk, maybe.
Yeah, there's a bit of jazz and soul in there as well, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of like R&B, and I mean, you and I have gushed over the wonderful Lydia Kitto,
she's brilliant.
She's fantastic. I fell in love with her that night. Honestly, she was just a talented, multi-talented. She came out playing the flute. She playing the guitar. She played the keyboards, and she had a lot of songs that she sang on it, because she originally with the band started out as a backing singer.
Yeah.
And she would, on a couple of the albums, she had like a song that she'd sing. And then now she's a fully fledged member. They've just released a new single, which is like she's singing on it. Back on 74, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, that was like their biggest hit that I guess would maybe got them, because they won the Brits for Best Group a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
that was like I was like really proud of them because I was like, oh, fantastic, like well deserved. Because listening to their songs, you just get the vibe that they know music.
Oh, yeah.
They really know what good music is to get people dancing, to get people vibing. And one of their songs, "Good Times," live is just it's just a wall of sound, and there's nothing better. And being in that crowd, they were so cool as well. Every single member of the band had their shades on. It was completely dark. They had their shades on, and they were like backlit by these silhouettes and these strobe lights and lasers and everything with the mist behind them. And they were just the coolest gang of people I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. They just have their own vibe, and they really are in their own league, Jungle. And I was invited to see them a few years ago, but I didn't really, I knew who they were, but I hadn't really ventured into their back catalogue much. And as a result, didn't end up going. Pretty quickly regretted that decision, because after that, that was the pivotal moment that resulted in me getting into their music. By that point, it was too late. All tickets are gone. But now, you mentioned the new track. Are you talking about Carry On?
Carry On, yeah.
Yeah, I premiered it on my radio show the other day. Banging tune.
Oh, it's so good.
And they're touring. I think they're doing a date at the O2 later this year. So
yeah, I think it's November. The new album comes out in August.
Yeah.
And then they're doing a world tour, another world tour. Just to say that a band is doing a world tour, it's like that, you know that these guys are talented. These guys are really good. And definitely. I was kicking myself. It was, in hindsight, it's 2020, but I also went to Glastonbury 2019. Because what year did you go? You went last year, didn't you? Yeah. But you've been multiple times, but this was my first time I'd ever been, and I was with my dad and my sister. They went to see, I think, Kylie Minogue, and I went to see Billie Eilish at the time. And great show, really good show. But I went there because it was Billie Eilish, and because she was on top of the world at the time. She'd just done Bad Guy, like she was on the brink of releasing her new album. Yeah. And originally I was meant to meet up with some friends from work at the time who were also there, but they bailed last minute. So it was just me on my own with all the dads and the 12-year-old girls. So that was my atmosphere. But I found out afterwards who was playing at the same time. Jungle. I could have seen, but this was before I went to see them live. And I'm kicking myself because I watched that show afterwards, and it just looked fantastic. But I don't think Lydia Kitto was a member of the band at that point. The band, the original two members, Tom McFarlane and Josh Lloyd, they just smashed it. Yeah. And I wish I could have been there. It's like, if I could go back in time, I would go to Jungle all over again. Not knocking Billie Eilish. She's a fantastic artist, but Jungle forever.
Yeah, too right. And I've experienced stuff like that before. I'm trying to remember when it was. It was actually at Glastonbury. First time I went, I think it was 2016. According to Michael Levis at the time, it was the worst year on record for mud. Literally, if you dropped your phone in the mud, you would never see it again. It was that
really
thick. Yeah, the ground was sodden, and but it was still, it was sunny. It wasn't raining, but it was just super, super muddy there. And the lineup that year was great. They had Coldplay. Coldplay are always there.
Oh, yeah.
And they had Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh, yes. I remember that. I remember seeing that on the telly. They did Chic, didn't they?
See, that's the thing. I went to see Coldplay. And although they were great, the atmosphere there was amazing. They had these light up wristbands, and it just created this sea of light in the crowd. But there was and this is the worst thing about Glastonbury, there was a clash with Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
And
because weren't they doing the Legends slot?
Yeah, Legends slot.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish I'd gone, but hindsight, so.
Yeah.
Funny thing though, they played at, I was about to say they played at a festival, local festival. It's not happening anymore, but it was called Stand and Calling.
Who, Coldplay?
Sorry, it was it was Earth, Wind and Fire.
Wow.
And on the poster for the festival, it said Earth, Wind and Fire. And people were like, oh, that's a pretty good gig for this local festival to have secured. Biggest festival in Hertfordshire. It's very much put Hertfordshire on the map. They've had bands like Primal Scream, Sigrid, all sorts of big acts, Bastille. They've all played there. And then, one year they had Earth, Wind and Fire. And okay, cool. Go along to the festival. go to see them, really good vibe. And it turns out afterwards that it wasn't Earth, Wind and Fire. It was a tribute act, but the organizers of the festival had put Earth, Wind and Fire on the lineup. And then there was a tweet that I had stumbled upon after the festival, and it was basically Stan and Calling had said, "Oh, super excited! Earth, Wind and Fire are going to be playing on this night, etc., etc." Earth, Wind and Fire responded to that tweet to say, "This is not us. We're based in Los Angeles." And my dad, right? Sorry, Dad, I'm really about to ruin your day here, but he thought it was Earth, Wind and Fire that he was seeing when it wasn't, and I've never had still haven't got the heart to say to him, "Dad, it wasn't them."
So.
Yeah.
I love a good tribute act. By the way, I should mention I've just embarrassed myself. When I said that they played Chic, I was literally thinking of the band Chic when they did it Glastonbury,
Rogers,
and not Earth, Wind and Fire. I got those two very wrong.
Very similar vibe,
but still, Earth, Wind and Fire, fantastic band,
incredible.
But yeah, no, we love a good tribute band. I remember I was living away, and my dad. It was my birthday on this day, and he's like, "Oh, I've got a surprise for you for your birthday," in our family group chat. I was like, "Oh, what is it? What is it? What is it?" And he's like, "I've booked us a gig, and it's a surprise." I would tell you, and like, "No, go on, do it." It's like, it's a David Bowie tribute band we're gonna go and see. I was like, but it was really good. This guy was very good. It was at this local venue in Milton Keynes where we grew up, and yeah, he did very well. And at that same venue, a few years later, me and Dad went to see the Arctic Monkeys tribute band, the Antarctic Monkeys.
Love that.
That was a very different vibe. I mean, I don't know if he was either channeling Annex Turner or if he was just a bit of a cock. He was the lead singer. But yeah, you could tell that he loved himself.
Yeah, quite a big ego by the sounds of things.
Yeah. But I mean, he did a very good impression. But no, the David Bowie one, my dad just loved because he did 3 distinct eras of Bowie, like from Ziggy Stardust to what was the one? Who was the fella that he had in the beige suit in the blonde hair? What was that one? Do you remember that one?
I'd have to Google it, but I think I know what you mean.
More people shouting at the screen. Ignorance.
Yeah, we're not really doing very well with our music trivia today, are we?
No.
David Bowie. If I Google David Bowie beige suit, will that help?
Maybe.
No, it's just come up with photos of David Bowie
just photos
in
of
a
his beige suit.
I don't know.
Well, that'll be his beige suit era. Yeah.
God, no. But I think, tribute acts, I find they're hit and miss, but I was introduced to them a few years ago by my father-in-law and got into them at that stage. And to this day, the best tribute act I've seen was an Eagles tribute. Because I went to see the actual Eagles, I want to say it was 2012 at the O2. And it might have been one of Glenn Frey's last UK dates, because I think he died a few years after that. And as a result, what a blessing it was to have had that opportunity. But, incredible set. Really, really enjoyed it. One of those gigs that's just stuck with me. But then a few years after that, I went to see a band called the Illegal Eagles. And honestly, if I'd have shut my eyes during that performance, I would have genuinely thought that I was actually listening and seeing the actual Eagles, because it sounded that similar. And that to me is like, that kind of sets the benchmark, if you like, for tribute acts, if they sound identical to the band.
Yes, yeah. I went to at a festival. I was at the Isle of Wight festival.
Nice.
Great festival, really fun. And there wasn't too much on the lineup that I was really interested in. I mean, there was a few legends that I was like, I've got to go see. There was Van Morrison there. The Killers were headlining. That was fantastic. But other than that, there weren't too many things. It was just my friend who invited me, who has family in the Isle of Wight, so she goes quite a lot. And but there was an AC/DC tribute band.
Nice.
And it was kind of clashing with another artist that we were going to see. So we went to see them first because that was my friends, like their favorite band. This band Hurts, if anyone's heard of them.
I love Hurts. Man,
yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I saw them last year at Brixton, but carry on.
No, yeah, like I'd not really heard much. They did, like, but I really like the song Beautiful Ones, that's the one. And the fella who was the main singer
Theo
was
Hutchcroft.
like who?
Theo Hutchcroft, what a legend.
Theo, that was it. Yeah, I remember that name very well. He was throwing out roses to the crowd, these golden roses to the crowd.
Yeah.
And he threw out the last one to her, but it was intercepted by someone else because she was like right at the front. She had a Hertz t-shirt on. She was going crazy, and he threw it. I think it either was caught by someone else or it didn't quite reach her. And he kind of does this like, sorry, look at everything. And like we watched it back and we saw that throw. Sorry, she wasn't on screen. But yeah, anyway, we were going to see Hertz before that as well. And this is the great thing about festivals and warm-up acts is you find people that you never had any sort of know of or you never really would find. But one of the acts before that, because we went, I think, 3 acts before Hertz was on, because she just was determined to get this front on the barriers.
Love that.
And we saw, just before then, we saw Jerry Cinnamon.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely love Jerry Cinnamon. And he just had so much fun with it. You could see he was on his guitar, he was like bobbing back and forth, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And I was like, this guy is fantastic. So I became an immediate fan. Again, would recommend Jerry Cinnamon. He's fantastic. And then, so yeah, we went to see Hertz, and then we went to try and catch this AC/DC band, but they had already started. So I could hear them in the tent, and I was trying to hurry them along. I was like, come on. Like, I could hear them doing Thunderstruck, and I was like, come on, quick. But again, like what you said, it was, you close your eyes and you would think that's Angus, you know?
Yeah. And that's when you know that a tribute act is at the top of their game, when they're able to just replicate the sound so accurately.
Yeah. And that's why tribute bands exist, obviously, because I think people, obviously, some of these artists, you can't always go and see them because tickets would be expensive nowadays. I mean, Christ, they cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks to the bastards at Ticketmaster. So yeah, obviously ticket touts and all that rubbish is, people can't go see these concerts. So I think tribute bands are fantastic. You know, people may sneer at them, but I think they're great because you kind of get to see these bands. You get to see, like, have the same energy, have the same kind of performance in a way for such a low price. And they're often so much fun.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think I've witnessed that as well. When I've been to a local venue to see a tribute act, the locals are always there having the best time. And it's generally really heartwarming to see, because of what you said, they may not necessarily have the financial means to go and see the actual band or the actual artist. So the tribute act, therefore, is the next best thing. And it's just such a joyous thing to witness, seeing people in their element, dancing along to whoever it may be, whatever the tribute act is. So there's a really special place for tribute acts, and long may their run continue. I do just want to go back to Hertz quickly, because when you brought them up, I was reminded of the first time I saw them, and it was again at Glastonbury 2016. Obviously, I talked about the mud, but the funny thing was they were playing on the other stage, and you know how Theo Hutchcraft, he's always impeccably dressed.
Yes, yeah. He was wearing a gold, I don't know what the material is, but it was very shiny gold shirt with his buttons done halfway down his navel.
Sounds about right for Theo, yeah. And he was wearing something quite similar when I saw them live for the first time. It was like a suspiciously white suit. And it was hilarious because it was like, we're literally just there in this super muddy field with mud coming like above, going up to maybe above our ankles kind of thing, probably even higher. And yet he's there on the other stage wearing this white suit, which just looks so out of place.
Yeah.
And that was
it like a bit? Did he get muddy or?
No, not at all.
He was just gloating.
He probably
can wear this, you can't.
Exactly. He probably just hopped in a golf cart after the gig and went back to his VIP site. But that was my first experience of seeing them live. And what a great one it was. They released, it's the album that's got the track Lights on it. I think it might be called Surrender. But anyway, it marked a bit of a change in sound and style for them, because their early stuff was it had some more serious, almost like gothic elements to it.
Yeah, I was going to say very emo. Well, not emo, but I mean, my friend would laugh and she would say like how miserable a lot of their songs were.
Yeah.
And like even the fact that they did a Christmas song and it's about how much they want the year to be over.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good song though. But yeah, a lot of their tracks are very dark, or their earlier tracks, but that was what they were going for. And then when Surrender arrived, they lightened things up a lot more. And that performance was only a 50-minute set. at Glasgow, but it was such a feel-good performance because they looked like they were enjoying themselves a lot.
Yeah.
When I saw them at Brixton Academy last year, it was an anniversary date for, I think it was their debut album
Oh, okay.
that they were celebrating. And it was like 10 years since they'd released it, 10 or 15 years.
Hmm.
And it was a great gig, but it was also quite bittersweet because you've got Theo and then you've got Adam Anderson, who's the bandmate. And he's always had struggles with mental health and anxiety and things. And as a result, made the really difficult decision to not join Theo for the run of anniversary gigs.
Wow.
And it was sad, and it was sad for the fans, but it was super sad for Theo. And he actually acknowledged that. And he said on stage, no one misses him more than me. And I was like, oh, because when it's someone it's like a family member at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. It's your partner.
So,
it's like your creative and also very long time friend.
yeah. Yeah. So I really, really felt for him, but he still put on an amazing gig. And it was great to hear so many of their early tracks again that I'd never really heard live from start to finish, because they played the album all the way through. And there's this one song called Illuminated, which if you've not heard, I'd highly recommend. But it's quite gothic. But on the actual studio version, there's a classically trained singer who almost provides it's kind of like the backing vocals during the track. And it just was such a unique kind of thing, had such a unique sound. And I think that's really what put them into their own league. And when they were touring that album at the time, it was another classically trained singer who joined them for that tour. His name was Kevin Sidaway, and it just is such an authentic sound. It's not just about their sound, though. It's also their style and the visuals and just the effort they put into their live performances that really just makes them one of a kind almost.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't even know if I don't think they're touring at the moment. I think they finished their anniversary tour, but I'm hoping that at some point they'll release a new album and then do a tour. But yeah, it's just, have you ever been to a gig that like a more intimate gig?
I have actually, yeah. This was a long, long time ago, and I do not remember much of it. Me and my sister are big musical theatre fans, and we went to see an actress, Julie Atherton. And for any musical theatre fans, she played the original Kate Monster in the London cast of Avenue Q. And she released an album, and we went to a more intimate gig. I remember it was an underground kind of bar. It had this large area, and she was doing a lot of songs. But I don't remember much about it. I do remember, though, I think I shouted something like, oh, my sister was like, shush, like hitting me like, no, stop it. This is an intimate gig. Stop it.
Yeah, there's a certain vibe with those types of gigs, and I think that's why they're so special. And that's kind of when I wanted to bring them up, because they don't happen much. I've only ever been to a few, but it's always special when a band or an artist picks an intimate venue, because that really sets the scene for obviously what's then going to be a really special, unique performance. I went to see band Foals in 2019 at a venue in Hackney called Tiny Venue, this cramped little room. But what a gig it was. I remember at one point during the set, Yanis, the front man, jumped off the stage, and then kind of to the right of the stage was this tiny little bar. And he jumps up onto the bar with his guitar, and he's kind of walking along it. And he's literally just off to our right.
Oh God! If I used to be a bartender, if that were me working behind the bar, I'd be so annoyed.
They probably were used to it, to be fair. But it was like being in the presence of a god, because usually when you go and see a band or an artist, depending on the position, you're quite far away. Yeah. But seeing him just like touching distance was one of those super memorable experiences. So, but musical theatre, I've never been to a musical theatre show like that.
Have you not?
Not to my memory. I've been to theatre shows, but I don't think I've ever been to like a super intimate one like the one you were describing. So,
well, it was her doing her solo song. So it was some of the songs she'd done in her career, some of the songs that she'd done in her album. And it was, I don't know why I don't remember much about it, but it was from the album, I believe it was called Girl, a Few Words. And from what I remember, it was very short-lived, I think. Well, I don't know. This is the thing. I literally, the only memory I have of it is seeing her slightly from the crowd, maybe about like 20 feet away.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I really have to say on that one. But I just remembered, I did go to a Frank Turner gig that was fairly intimate. I didn't really know much about his history, but I knew a few of his songs from my sister because she was a big fan of his. And I got to the front, and it was really annoying because, I mean, I'm all for a good mosh pit, but I was just being pushed up against this barrier like over and over again. And I was like, I'm not here for this. So I went out and went to this platform in the bar and stood there. But one thing I do remember him doing was he had his friend over with him. And he said, right, I've ordered a shot of whiskey for my friend and I need everyone to pass it to the stage. So like a person from the crowd would grab it off the bar and then send it to the next person in the crowd, and it got all the way there. And then she did this. No, it was two shots of whiskey, and then they both did the shot together. They locked arms, and he was like, "It's her birthday, woo!" He put on a great show.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. I've always wanted to see him live, actually, because Frank Turner, he's one of those artists that's just, he's always been part of my life. And although I've not listened to his music recently, his album Tape Deck Heart played a big role in my life when I was going through a bit of a rough patch. And people often talk about music being a universal language, kind of describing your feelings when words just can't, or just then they're just not coming to you. And I think that is really the power of music. And there's tons of albums which we will get onto shortly that have played a big role in my life, but Tape Deck Heart is one of them. And there's two standout tracks from that album that resonated with me at that time. The first one was called Recovery, and the one, Losing Days. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one lyric, one of those tracks. I think it might be Recovery. It's been quite a few years since I've listened to it. But it's broken people can get better if they really want to. And when you just hear a lyric like that, it's getting deep here, but it's a DMC.
Yeah, it's a DMC.
When you just hear a lyric like that and it resonates, but it also just provides you with a sense of comfort.
Yeah.
For me, that track achieved just that. And that's the power of music. It can support you through your best and your worst times. And that's why I love it.
Yeah. It's also quite interesting because depending on how cryptic or specific the lyrics are, anyone can almost apply it to themselves. And a good artist is one, I think, that can write a song about it comes from their emotions, comes from their experience, but it can be broad enough, or it can be open to interpretation enough that almost anyone can say, wow, yeah, they get me.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ed Sheeran has this line. He said that once he's released a song, it's not his song anymore, it's the audience's song.
Yeah.
And I really respect that because he truly does it for the fans and he truly does it for his people. And I think, as you say, that's just really the power of music. It is such a universal language.
Definitely. And what's beautiful about it is you can take your own meaning from it. Although the artist or the band wrote it about a particular thing, sometimes the actual meaning of the song can align with something you may be experiencing at a certain point in time. But also, I just love how you can draw your own meaning from a track. And I mean, there's so many different songs and albums floating around in my head right now. And I'm just trying to filter through them and pick out the best ones. But the ones that really are coming to mind right now, there's a track called Take Control, which is by an Irish band called Codaline. Would highly recommend if you've not listened to their music.
We'll have to post a list of our recommendations for this episode. We've had too many at this point. I can't remember all of them.
We will do. We'll put it in the Discord.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a track called Take Control, and it's a shame because Codaline, they're splitting up. They've got one more farewell tour lined up for this year, and then that's it. But they've been with me for years, and the track itself, it kind of helped me to figure out who I was. It's quite an empowering track. And not only are the vocals really, really strong and impactful, but the production as well. It just It's a very stirring record that I'd highly recommend listening to. But then there's other tracks. Foals, they released technically 2 albums back in, it was just before the first lockdown. And the album itself is called Everything Not Saved Will Be Lost. But they had part 1 and part 2. There's quite a few beautiful tracks on both sides, if you like. But there's one called Into the Surf, which is just written or inspired by Yanis's Greek heritage, and it was paired with the most beautiful music video, very kind of fluid, calming music video. I can't really describe it using words. It's something that you would just have to watch, but it's just one of those tracks that really hits deep. And I think that's often what I look for in music. I want to say maybe a week or 2 ago, I stumbled across it's Radio 1. They do something called the Radio 1 piano sessions.
Yeah,
and
I like those.
They're fantastic. I also think they're actually quite underrated as well. But they had Sigrid. She covered, this was a few months ago. He played 2 covers and one of her own tracks, but they were all very stripped back. She did The Subway by Chaplin. She did a stripped back version of the first song called 2 Years, which is from her latest album. And the final cover was High and Dry, Radiohead.
Oh, nice.
And it just really showed off how like gritty and raw her vocals were. But what I really noticed was when she was performing it, you could tell her eyes were tearing up. And I was like, damn, that's the power of music, when a track can affect someone so deeply that they really get into the zone when they're performing it. And I think that aligns with the aim for this podcast, you know, to express those types of emotions, whether it's with words, whether it's talking with the music, whatever it is, which is why I wanted to do this episode. With that said, Joe, any tracks or albums that really come to mind, ones that have just resonated with you and are continuing to do so?
It's a musical theatre song. It's another one from Avenue Q. It's a song that comes at the end of the show, and it's called For Now. And the story of the show, I mean, it's a fucking brilliant musical. Would recommend it. I think it's coming back to the West End as well soon. It's basically like an adult Sesame Street, where you've got actors with these puppets. Half the characters are puppets, and they're coming around like, hey, you know, and everything, and they're singing through the puppets.
Love that.
And it's so funny. It's not for the faint-hearted, I will say. For example, some of the songs, everyone's a little bit racist. The internet is for porn. You can be as loud as the hell you want when you're making love. Sucks to be me. There's so many great songs, but the core of it is this character called Princeton, who he's just graduated college and he's got no money. And the joke of the title is like, he comes on, everyone's saying, why are you looking to move all the way out here? And he's like, oh, well, I started at Avenue A, but so far everything's out of my price range. So he gets all the way to Avenue Q. So that's like the kind of joke of the title, but it's all about him trying to find his purpose in life. And the end of it, he realizes maybe people don't find their purpose, but that's not what life is about. And this song, For Now, is about how everything, be it bad or good, is only temporary. It's only for now. Yeah. And I always listen to it when I have some sort of big stressful thing coming up in my day, because it just helps me relax. It's a very puts things into perspective kind of song, but they'll always bring a little bit of topical instant. There's like, they have a part of the song where they say, sex is only for now, your hair is only for now. And then they have the third one. It's often like a topical thing. So Donald Trump is only for now. I've seen so many instances where like swine flu or Boris Johnson or, you know, whatever is going on. And there's a lyric in it. It's so good. It's like, don't stress, relax, let life roll off your backs. Except for death and paying taxes, everything in life is only for now. And it always brings me a little bit of comfort. I'll always listen to it if I've got a test or something in the day, or like I listen to it on the day I passed my driving test. I listen to it on the days that I had big exams at school, and it just always brings me a little bit of comfort, and it helps me relax, and it helps me put into perspective. Like, yes, things may not go right, but it's only temporary. It's only for now.
I rate that. And I think that's one of the amazing things about music. It helps to almost foster a certain mindset and get you into a certain kind of mood almost. Yeah. And it's always there for you. There's always a certain genre or album or sound or whatever that just suits a mood that you may be in at a certain point in time, which it's a friend at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
it always has been and always will be for not just us, but for so many people, for you guys, the listeners as well. I could go on for hours talking about the tracks that resonated with me in the albums, and I'm sure it's the same for you, Joe. I guess we should look to wrap things up shortly, because otherwise we will just go on, and I'd be happy to do so. There is a track, however, called Heaven Up There by Palace, and it's one of those tracks that I stumbled across a few years ago. A British band, really, really good indie band, and offer a similar vein to the band Fleet Foxes, that kind of sound. And when I first heard Heaven Up There a good few years ago, I sent it to one of my sisters, Becky, who has a very similar taste in music to me, and we often share recommendations and new discoveries. And I sent it to her, and she said something along the lines of, it's one of those tracks that just makes you feel grateful for the here and now. And I was like,
that's
that's
a great
so
line.
spot on. And it's just both the song and what she said have stuck with me ever since. So with all of that said, what we want you guys to do is we want you to share your picks, albums and songs that have resonated with you in the Discord, because it's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build up a community where we can all share experiences, good tracks, good albums, things that have really resonated with us, whether it's a film, whether it's an album, whether it's a book, stuff like that. Things that have just stuck with you throughout your life so far. So that's it. Any parting comments from you, Joe?
No, I think we've gone through a lot of topics. I mean, overall, I think the main conclusion is the power of music. And I think, what would life be without it? It would be, I dread to even think, really. I mean, because we would all lose a bit of ourselves. We would all lose a bit of expression. We would all lose so much joy and everything. It's like we would be nothing without music. And I think, there's nothing quite like it. It's a universal language, brings people together.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, with that said, before we wrap things up for today's episode, it's time for us to talk about the next area that we're going to be focusing on during our next DMC, which is aspirations, life goals, the things that motivate us in life. So make sure you join us then for the next DMC, which will be episode 4. And until next time, take care of yourselves, look for the meaning in the unlikely places, and we'll see you on the next winding road. I've been Jono Godley.
I've been Joe Hackman.
And this has been Time for a DMC. We'll catch you later.
One more night in my head, I'm stirring up dust and kicking cobwebs, looking for a light I've never known. Will it be out in the wilderness, or will it be homegrown? One more night with the dead, I've been spending more time with them than the living. And if you're just the company that you keep, I'll stay where I am for eternity. Well, I don't know if something's gonna come my way. I don't know, but give me just a little taste, 'cause I need something to hold on to. I need more than just a window with a view. And all this looking out is just a symptom of a heart filled with doubt.